England kick-started the Euro 2024 campaign with a 1-0 win against Serbia and, of course, a clean sheet. However, the way the media, pundits and social media is talking, you would think England lost 3-0. Today, we're going to go through that performance, analyse some of the highlights, but more importantly, address why is there such a negative vibe surrounding this team and is there cause for concern going ahead in this tournament? Let's kick things off, though. We'll start with a positive. Bellingham, obviously the match winner, highly praised as always in the media. What did we make of his goal and his general performance?
I think there was two contrasts. I think Bellingham of the first half is what the PR around him is about. Him being, a bullish kind of player, sort of, being that bully, being everywhere, getting into attacking positions and also winning tackles, getting fouled and just being a menace. So that is sort of where it is. And his goal came from a sort of, a late run into the box for a header. And he's done quite well because you've got to remember the Serbian average height for their team was 6'2". So to win any header against them, you've done quite well. And then I think you've got to probably look in the second half where I'm not going to say he went missing, but there was nothing like what he was in the first half, really. So it's kind of, I think it was like two contrasting sort of half performances. One was brilliant. That's what we want from Bellingham. And the other, I'm not saying it was just him as well in the second half, that was, where did it go? That's kind of how I sort of saw it.
Yeah, I think that's fairly reflective of the whole team, to be honest. You could have said that probably about any of the players, not just Bellingham. But I think that's a concern. We'll obviously get a bit deeper into it, but I think that is a concern, and it always has been of Southgate sides. So I don't know, maybe it's harsh to single him out for that, but we can't keep doing this 1-0 and then fade away. Reece, specifically on Bellingham, obviously that's the main point, I guess. How did you rate his performance and attitude?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I think a lot of people, because of his Real Madrid season, have overhype isn't the right phrase, but he's over expected. He's over delivered on what he's actually supposed to be doing. So he's overperforming. And I felt that his role yesterday was.
What?
I'm sorry. He ain't overrated. I will never agree with you on that.
Yeah, no, not overrated. He's overperforming. And that's not a bad thing. But I think what we saw of him yesterday is what we should expect to see of him. You'll see it at Madrid when they bring in other players, but what we expect of him, we got a bit of luck to get that goal, a deflection of Pavlovic, who was a great defender, or is a great defender. But what was important, he was there. He was there to head that in, and that's what he's for. Harry Kane didn't do it, Foden didn't do it, he did. And that's what's important, is he's there for those moments, those clutch moments to bring it in. And after that, it was very much part of the game management aspect of it. He didn't need to do that much. So he did well, and I think he deserves credit. I know even after the match, he speaks very well. This guy's a winner. He's already gone and won a Champions League and a league. So he's full of confidence right now. But people do need to calm down. Like, what he did yesterday is exactly what we should expect to see of him for the future. And it was a solid performance.
Yeah, look, he's gonna attract that in every aspect. He's had the hype, he's had the move, he's delivered on the move in his first season, and he's also so young and he's got the attitude. So he is the total package, and that's why naturally he is gassed up by everyone. I think as well what helps is the fact he doesn't play for an English side. If it was a Foden, you've got all the naturally Man United fans are going to want to dig out Foden more, whereas City fans might back him. Whereas with Bellingham, everyone can get on his hype train because you're not going to slate him because of club rivalries. So I do think that helps.
That's a very good point. It's also with that is you won't watch every game. I'm just a Real Madrid fan. You don't really watch every game. Not every game's on TV for us. Whereas Foden, Saka, the rest of the team, you watch them every week. So yeah, you do dig them out a bit more, I'd say, than what Bellingham would get if you watched him against, I don't know, Getafe and he had a poor performance. No one would actually care because no one watches La Liga that much compared to the Premier League.
Yeah, and I think as well the thing is again that goes in his favour that I absolutely love about him is like even that little shoulder barge yesterday. Yes, look, if he got booked for that, I'd be saying he's an absolute clown. But to do that, to just he's got that presence and he's got that sort of that confidence just to even do that. And you don't see that. And everyone talks about his age, and I do think the hype is justified. Like he wants to be that guy. He's not always going to be the guy, but you know what I mean. He doesn't look out of his depth, and I do really like that about him. So we've just got to hope he continues to do that, and obviously the performances, match that. We mentioned obviously Foden just briefly, more as a general point, but I guess we've got to talk about some of the weaker performances all round. Again, second half, you could pretty much pick out the whole side, in my opinion. I think the ones who suffered the most were Foden in the left wing position and Kane, particularly in the first half. I think if I'm not wrong, Kane had one touch. Why
Two touches?
Two
Yeah.
touches.
Two
There
touches.
you go.
Firm one. Yeah.
For a world class striker, that's not good enough. I guess the question we've got to ask is it Kane's? Is it a striker's fault if they have two touches, or is it the rest of the side's fault for not getting the ball? And is Foden and Kane, or are Foden and Kane, going to suffer in Southgate's system?
I think it comes down to tactics. Look, Serbia were doing exactly what they set out to do. They're big, they're strong. Harry Kane can't bully his way around that defence. 6'2", 6'3" centre backs. They're bigger than him as well. They match him for size. So he's not going to get the rub of the green. Same with Foden. They knew exactly what to do with Foden. It comes down to pure tactics. Saka had a go and he had a good game. But realistically, I think Serbia knew if they kept one or two of them quiet, Saka could do whatever he likes. So I think that's one of the reasons for it. I don't think the system's that bad. This system has scored goals before. People need to understand that you don't need to go and beat Serbia 4-0. Serbia are a good side. They're a strong side. We just had to be a games management approach. He's taken a leaf out of the Guardiola's book or the Arteta's book of take the one and shut up shop. It's nothing to be sniffed at. We've got to play to our strengths, and our defence isn't really our strength. So in a way, we had to try and protect it.
I'm not sure I'd say it's Guardiola and Arteta, to be honest. I'd say it's more Mourinho, where you go 1-0 up and then you just sit back and you're like, yeah, we're done. Which I don't love.
Back though, I think we were just tactically better. I think yes, Mourinho aspect comes into it, but Serbia didn't really threaten. Let's be honest, Serbia didn't threaten. Everyone goes on about that Vlahovic shot, but Pickford should have saved that anyway. It wasn't the best shot I've ever seen. So
if you're keeping it side down to having one good shot opportunity, your defence has done its job. You can't keep out every team from having a shot, and unless it's sort of a tap in that's gone in, then you look at the defence. But if they're having one shot outside the box, no matter how good the shot is, you're keeping teams to an sort of, if you're looking at stats, like the XG level of it will be very low, and that's what you do, and that's what Reece was saying with Arteta and Pep is, if you look at the XG of them two teams, they're very, very low, and that's the whole point of it for the defensive side, really.
Yeah.
But going back to probably what we were saying before with Foden and Kane, was yes, they are going to suffer, both of them, because Kane, I'm going to go with Kane first. His game has always been, I'll come short, collect the ball, I can ping it to a Son who's going to make that run. And he's got the likes of, Sane in the Bayern Munich squad. You've got someone with pace. And we don't really have that with Saka, with Foden. They're just not them type of players. And that's not a criticism of them. It's just that's not who they are. So that's why he suffered. However, in the second half, I thought he battled incredibly well and held up the ball a lot of times where these defenders for Serbia, they're giants, they're beasts. Like, they're not ones that really will lose out on headers. So Kane, I think, did incredibly well in the second half and won us a few free kicks. Foden, on the other hand, once again, first half wasn't really involved. And when he did get involved, he didn't do a lot, basically. However, in the second half, and I said it in our group chat, we needed someone in that second half when we were under pressure to control the ball. just to have a few 5 minutes. And this is actually what I think Grealish would have been good at, by the way. So him being out of the squad as well. But the only person, actually the two people who I think in the second half had control of the football was Kane and was Foden. That's not, it's not like they were glamorized by it, because they definitely weren't. Everyone's saying they've both had poor performances. But in that second half, you needed Foden just to, he had a few touches where he got the ball, played it to Rice for a 5-yard ball. He played it back to him, and he just kept the ball for a good sort of minute. And that's what we needed in that moment, because we were suffering for that second half of the game. But this is where I think, in the attacking sense, Foden did absolutely nothing. And Kane had the one header which the goalie made a brilliant save from. So really, attacking wise, them two didn't do much. And it probably does come down to tactics, where Kane wants to be involved in the build-up, but he shouldn't be anymore. And Foden was sort of, he wants to come inside. That's what he's been doing. That's why he's won the Premier League Player of the Season, because he's coming inside. He doesn't want to be out on the left as well. So I think it preferred going down Saka's route, because in the first half, Saka had their left back on toast completely every single time. He was going past him or winning a corner. Second half, Saka did nothing, because the player got Saka's number then, or was just much more aggressive, and it worked out for him. So that's where I think we struggled in the second half, because we didn't have the attacking prowess of Foden, and Saka was being held as well. So that's where we suffered probably more, and that's where I think Southgate needs to think about his tactics on how he actually gets the ball up the pitch more when we're sort of pinned back a bit, because I think we struggled massively in that aspect.
Yeah, Jamie's absolutely right. Look, I think we were still pretty comfortable that Serbia's chances only really came from mistakes, and they never really threatened. So I don't really criticise Foden or Kane's performances, because they did their job. Like what Jamie said, keeping the ball. I agree, this is where a Jack Grealish comes in handy, or I know he shouldn't have gone, but Marcus Rashford, where those players, I think they've got the ability as well to kill a game off if they need to, hold the ball and go and make it 2-0. I don't really think we have that in our squad at the moment. So we have to be tactically better, which is what we were. So we went, okay, we got the lead. If we hadn't scored that chance, I still think we would have gone and scored a goal anyway. The mentality would still be very different. But I think we took it and said, look, the first game was a draw between Denmark and Slovenia. Let's go and get the win, because we only need to win another one and we're done. So it was easy. This is probably our toughest game, Serbia. It's the opening game. Serbia there to frustrate. That's what they're there for. So we take it. I don't think it's a big deal about Foden. Everyone was saying how great he was. Now they're all criticising him. Like, what do they want? Players don't score lots of goals at these tournaments, really. The top scorer tends to get 3 goals, 4 goals. It's very, very rare they go beyond that. So it's not really a big deal as long as you win, and that's what we've done. People forget how Portugal, I don't think, won a game, did they, in Euro 2016? And they won one, and they still went on to win it. I don't think we'd be complaining then, would we?
No. And as well, like we despite the lack of control in the second half, we kept a clean sheet against, well, that's the best striking partnership definitely in our group. Vlahovic and Mitrovic, who, other than the one shot, were pretty, Mitrovic got subbed off early. So we've criticised in the build-up to the tournament, saying our defence is our weakness, our weakest part. And then we've gone and kept a clean sheet in the opening game against 2 decent strikers. So it's not all bad. And even if you look at the other teams so far who have played, Belgium lost, Germany, great result, but defensively conceding to 10 men of Scotland. So look, Spain got a good win, but actually Croatia had a higher XG than them. So all these other teams we're competing with have still showed some weaknesses despite the big results. One thing to mention, just on the control and slowing the game down, etc. I've got to talk about Palmer. Hashtag free Palmer was trending on Twitter yesterday after the game. Obviously, that's a bit dramatic. But for me, he leans into exactly that point. Giving the ball, he'll slow it down, he'll get a pass off, he won't lose the ball. we all know, as we've done many podcasts, TikToks, whatever on it, highest goals and assists in the Premier League, which everyone says is the best league in the world. What has he got to do to get on the pitch?
I thought it was weird that he put on Bowen instead of Palmer, because I was saying what I thought my subs would be. I got the Gallagher one right, and then I thought he'd bring on Palmer. However, you also have to remember Bowen came on, and I think Bowen has a bit more defensibility about him than what Palmer does. I think Palmer's got to do it. Bowen's got to do it more at West Ham. I know he normally plays a bit more sort of centrally, but he still does that defensive work, I think, a bit more than Palmer. So that's probably why Saka came off for Bowen instead of Palmer, just for the defensive capabilities. Palmer will get his chance, especially in these 3 games. Because even if we go and beat them, let's say we beat Denmark in the next game, I think Palmer will then be starting in the final game. Give rotation of minutes, and then that's Palmer's time to prove himself and go, I'm here and I deserve to be in this starting 11. Palmer, I think they all get their chance. It's just when's the right time. And Southgate just didn't think it was for that game, really.
I don't think you bring Palmer on when you're 1-0 up. When you're 1-1, I think he makes a difference. I think you change that tactic. He's that attacking player they want. I agree. I think Bowen's a little bit more defensive minded, a little bit more stable in the system. So I think that's all it is. I think Palmer's the player you're going to play, 1 when you're home and dry, or 2 when you want to attack. That's what he's going to be brought on for.
Yeah, makes sense. And in terms of what we need to change for the next game, we've kind of already mentioned the lack of control in the second half, and maybe who should have come on or who shouldn't have gone off. Do we need to change anything against Denmark to be more attacking, a bit more fluid, or control the game more in the second half?
It could come down to Southgate's tactics, to be perfectly honest, because what he's done numerous times is we go 1-0 up and then we drop off. You sort of, like the best example is against Italy. We went 1-0 up so early in that game in the Euros final, and then we sat back. Whereas if we hadn't done that, we would have been much more attacking, and it would have been sort of like the 30 minutes like we had against Serbia, attacking wise, because we want that goal. But once we get the goal, we seem to sort of, take 5 yards back, which I think is okay to do at certain points in the game. Maybe you just go, you know what, we scored. Next 5 minutes, we'll sit 5 yards back. That's 5 for 5 minutes. We shouldn't keep doing that for, I don't know, like the next 30. That's when I think it's a problem. But then if you want to look at changes of personnel, the only one I can really look at, the 2 that you can look at is 1, Foden. It's whether we go with something different out there. Well, actually, sorry, 3 probably. You go with the left-hand side. If Shaw's back, you probably want him over Trippier, and then Foden, as I mentioned. And then the other one's Trent. I'm not having Trent as a centre midfielder. I think it's fine to do it when we play teams that aren't expected to win the tournament. So maybe you do it just in the group stage, but I personally wouldn't have him as it. You saw him get caught and nearly gave a goal away in the first half. But it's just not. He's just not a centre midfielder for me. I think his passing ability, everything like that, you can't knock it. But in centre midfielder, you've got to be, positionally aware, checking your shoulders every 5 seconds. And it's something he's got a problem with at right back. If you've got a problem at right back with that sort of, checking your sort of position in sensing where players are, centre midfielder is going to be a lot worse. So do you put a Gallagher in there, but that's possibly a bit more defensive? Do you do the Bellingham back, put Foden as the 10, and then someone on the left? You could do that. However, I don't see Southgate changing it. I think he's gone. We've won 1-0, clean sheet win, first game. I'm happy. Continue. But there's definitely changes you can make that could make it a bit better.
Yeah, there's pressure on Denmark, obviously, and I think he'll be aware of that. So he might stick to the system he played and try and shut up shop against them. but I don't think Denmark are that good a side. So I think there's nothing wrong with going back to his old style like he has done before, because I think that makes sense. Put Cole Palmer in there if you really want to. If you go to that style, though, and you want to start going back to how we played yesterday, that's much more difficult because you've got a lot more different players on the pitch. So that might be a bit... it's 50-50 how he goes for this. Because I think he'd take a draw against Denmark. So if he's happy to take the draw, then he's going to have to play like he did yesterday. Personally, I would just go all out against Denmark because I think we can beat them quite comfortably. And I would play that style we've got, like what Jamie's saying now. I'd take Trent out of the side. I'd put Cole Palmer in. I'd keep Foden in there as well, and Saka, and play like that and just give it a go. But I think it is a tough one to Gareth because you get 3 games to experiment, and the ball is in our court now. We're comfortable because the other 2 teams drew, so it's quite hard for them to
Do you
actually.
think he should experiment in these 3 games, or do you think he should get his side ready for the knockouts?
It's something you should do when you're obviously through. But my opinion on this is some of the better teams do that as well. It's not a big deal. Like, it only matters at the end. And I think that's what people need to understand is how many teams put all their effort in towards that and then don't get the result at the end. It happens a lot. So I think it doesn't really matter. I think the way he played wasn't such a bad deal, like by bad way of playing. So I don't really think there needs to be changed much. But if Denmark go 1-0 up, then he'll probably change and be more attacking, which again is something we're more than capable of beating.
Yeah, I don't think he will change it, to be honest, just because he'll see a 1-0 win as a great success, I think. And I don't agree. Like, I know he's risk averse, but I don't think he'll be happy with the draw against Denmark. I know obviously that would kind of guarantee us, it'd put us in an extremely strong position anyway. You got to go and beat Denmark. I mean, come on, like they're not the side they once were. I'd argue this. Some might people say they're better than the previous tournament, but I'd say they're maybe just a bit worse. Just go and beat them and put on a show. I do agree. I don't think he'll change it. I would like to see maybe a Gallagher instead of Trent. We saw yesterday about winning the ball. I think Gallagher won 3, maybe 4 fouls when he came on yesterday, and that was in maybe a 20-minute period. And we know the energy he can bring, so maybe get a Gallagher in there or a Mainu, similar role. But yeah, ultimately, I don't think he'll change it. Just finally, before we wrap up, we've obviously mentioned Bellingham, particularly in the first half. Was there anyone else that impressed you guys yesterday? I think for me, I'd chuck Gurhey in that conversation. Again, first major tournament, stepping up, didn't really look out of his depth whatsoever. Yeah, I thought he was quite impressive. Anyone else for you guys that stood out?
To be honest, if you were in a first half, I would have said Saka. I thought he was, he was the attacking threat. If we were going to score another goal, it would have come from Saka beating his man, getting it in, however it was. So I'd probably say Saka in that. I think Rice did the defensive duties right. I think I'd like to see him pass a bit more forward. That's more than 2 yards, but that sort of that will probably develop in his game. Not in this tournament, more when he's playing for Arsenal when he's needed to. Then yeah, I agree with you with Guy and Stones. They did the simple things. They went, we're not messing around. We're going to get the ball, pass, done. And that's what you need from defence that's not seen as a great defence. Just do the basics. Don't worry about the rest of it. Let the attacking players do that. Because if they don't score, it's not on them. It's not on Stones. It's not on Guy. Not on Walker. Not on Trippier. Just keep your clean sheet. That's all they should be focusing on, really.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Mike Gee was very, very good. He spoke well after the game as well. No real panic, no real issues for him. So I think he did a great job. Whether you play him against France and something like that is a different matter. But nevertheless, a very calm head when we probably needed it. I think Pickford had a good game. I think I think Saka had a good game. And I'd agree. I thought Gallagher was very good when he came on as well. I think it would steadied the ship a little bit more. So the team overall played very well. You know, like I said, we don't need to go out and beat Serbia 4-0. I don't get why people are so obsessed with that. We've thrashed teams before and we never won anything. It doesn't matter. It's winning the game that matters. Do you honestly think Guardiola cares? You know, the guy's won a treble and he won a lot of 1-0s. Doesn't matter. It's how you get the job done, and we've never got the job done properly. So realistically, it's a good start. It's a confident start, you know, and goes to show that the team has improved. But of course, there's much more pressure on them against Denmark because I think there's those elements of underperforming. And if they lose to Denmark, then obviously it's back to square one, isn't it? Because you're immediately back under pressure. I know you've got Slovenia in the last game, but if they've got something to play for, we've already shown they can give it a go. But nothing really to, you know, write home about. It was just a standard performance that I think we should have expected, and is what champions do. Solid performances. So that's what it was.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line is you know, we're treating a 1-0 win in the media and everyone as if it's a loss. So that's a pretty good, it's a good bar to be set if we're you know, crying over a 1-0 win. So yeah, look, that wraps us up for this episode. That's all we got time for. We've had our say. Let us know your say. What did you think of the performances? Is Southgate the one? But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.